Hi, I'm Jimmy Illyria here at 3A Automotive and Diesel Repair. We get a lot of questions about steering problems and vehicle control problems. So today I'm going to answer some of the most common ones to help you extend the life and reliability of your car and to understand what's going on if you run into one of these situations. Why does my car pull to one side while I'm driving? If you ever been hold on to the steering wheel to keep the car from going right or left, typically the most common situation is that you have a low tire or low tires. When a tire is low, it's putting more stress on one side than the other, and so therefore the car's going to want to pull. Now, another reason that happens is when you have something going on with the suspension. It could be a multitude of issues, but if it's pulling and you have a proper tire pressure and everything's good with the tires, then something maybe have come loose. You hit something on a curb, you hit a pothole, anything like that can put something out of adjustment, and that's causing that pull. What causes loose or unresponsive steering? Loose or unresponsive steering can happen for several reasons. One of which is that the gearbox in the steering is old. It's worn out and there's too much play in the steering box that's allowing that steering wheel to move a little more than it should in order to get it to turn. Another thing that can happen is the components have worn out. The rubber components that are holding everything together are breaking apart or they've gotten hard, and now you've got things that should be nice and tight because they're held together with rubber components, and that rubber has eroded and now you've got loose steering. So the best thing to do if that happens is to get it checked out by a professional, because it could be a multitude of reasons why you have loose or unresponsive steering. Why does my steering wheel shake? This is a great question. A lot of people feel that when the steering wheel is shaking that you have an alignment problem. And that is actually not true. If your steering wheel is shaking when you're braking, meaning you're hitting the brakes on the freeway or on the road, and all of a sudden the steering wheel is shaking, a lot of times that's because the rotors, the circular part of the braking system, are warped. They're uneven. And so when you hit the brakes, it gives you a shake in the steering wheel. Another thing that caused the steering wheel to shake is you have a tire problem. It could be that the tires are out of balance, they need to be rebalanced, or that you have tires that are starting to separate or they're choppy, and that's causing the steering wheel to shake. But it's typically not anything to do with the alignment. What does it mean if my steering wheel feels stiff? If your steering wheel feels stiff, it means that your power steering system isn't working properly. And that could be a multiple of things. It could be that you're low on power steering fluid. You could have something going on with the power steering system itself, which is, it could be an electronic steering, or it could be something that actually has fluid in it. Another thing is low tires. If your tires are low, it's taking more power to actually steer the car. So if your steering wheel is feeling stiff, definitely have it checked out right away, because that can be a dangerous situation as well. Can steering problems affect safety? Definitely steering systems can affect safety, because you want to be able to tell the car where to go. The steering wheel, when you turn it, you want it to respond as quickly as possible. So if that steering system isn't responding the way that you want it to, you could have a delayed reaction in the car going where you need it to go quickly. So if you have a problem with the steering, it should be checked out right away. Why does my car feel unstable on the road? If your car feels unstable, meaning that you're not able to keep it in the lane because it's moving around, that's a sign that you have something going on with the power steering system or the suspension system or the tires. So you definitely want to make sure that you get it checked out and find out what it is, because it could be something as simple as low tire pressure, or you could have something breaking down in the suspension of the steering system. What causes uneven tire wear from steering issues? Steering issues are typically noticed when the car is trying to pull left or pull right, or the steering is loose. In either one of those situations, it's putting more pressure on the tires, because if the car is pulling, that means it's trying to go one way. Usually that's going to be felt in the tires. The tires are going to wear unevenly. So whenever you have loose steering or something where the car is trying to pull one way or the other, where you're going to see that wear and tear is in the tires. Is it safe to drive with steering problems? I don't think it's very safe to drive with steering problems. The steering gives you the control of the vehicle. So if you have loose steering or it's hard to steer the vehicle, it could be a dangerous situation. Not only that, If you have a steering problem, meaning that the car's trying to pull one way or the other, that means it's putting a lot of pressure on the tires, and you could be wearing out the inside of the tires or the outside of the tires, and you don't see that, and you could have a blowout from something that's caused by a steering problem. So it's definitely not safe to drive when you have a steering problem. How do steering issues get worse over time? Steering issues can get worse over time for a couple reasons. Well, if a steering issue comes from you have low fluid in the power steering system, well, the more that system leaks out the fluid, it's going to get harder to steer, and it's going to make that problem worse over time. If a steering issue is coming from something in the suspension or the steering gears themselves, then over time that's just going to get looser and looser and eventually could break, and so it could definitely get worse over time. What does a steering inspection check? What a steering inspection checks is typically we want to look at, is there uneven tire wear, and how does the car perform when you go to steer? So the first thing would be a test drive. You'd want to get a mechanic or a technician in the car and actually drive the vehicle to see how it's performing. Is the steering wheel loose, or is the car trying to drift one way or another? That would be the first thing. Once they pull it into the shop, they're going to get it up, and they're going to check for tire wear. If there's any uneven tire wear, we're going to be looking at the steering components to make sure that that isn't causing the improper tire wear. The other thing they're going to check is to see how the tires steer, and looking at those components that actually make the tires steer, checking all those joints, checking all those rubber bushings that are in there that keep everything tight to see if there's something worn out. So both driving the vehicle to see what it's doing and getting a visual inspection of the tires and the steering components is what is involved in a steering inspection check. Can steering issues damage other components? Steering issues can definitely damage other components, including the tires. If you're having steering issues, meaning the car's pulling one way or another, or you have a loose steering wheel, that could put more stress on your tires, wearing them out prematurely, or in a real serious situation, causing a blowout. So you definitely want to handle a steering issue fast, because it could put other stress on other areas of the car, definitely on the tires. When should steering problems be repaired? Steering problems should be repaired as soon as you start feeling it. Most of the time people feel steering issues when their car is trying to pull one way or another. It's hard to keep it in the center of the lane, or there's something going on when they're actually turning, like a popping or noises when they're steering. So those things are signs that you have a more serious problem on the way. They should be addressed right away, because it can be a safety issue and it can prematurely wear out your tires if you don't fix those steering problems right away. I hope this video helped answer some of your most common questions about steering problems and your vehicle's control. If you'd like to schedule an inspection here at 3A Automotive, give us a call at 602-997-7978, or you can just stop by and one of our service advisors or technicians will go for a drive with you, and so we can actually pinpoint exactly what issue you're dealing with. We're here to help you keep your vehicles reliable, safe, and valuable for the long haul.